can hold my body down. There ain't no grave can hold my body down.
Here I go again.
Here I go again.
Probably should not fall into the Terrell Owens trap again, but I can't help myself, and neither can Terrell. We have had this discussion, Terrell and I, too many times to count, on live national TV face-to-face. I have actually come to like Terrell. I have. I congratulated him face-to-face on Undisputed for finally getting into the Hall of Fame. Congratulations. Wouldn't be in my Hall of Fame, but congratulations.
Skip Bayless right now is being passive-aggressive and extremely oxymoronic. He literally just said that he thought that him and Terrell Owens had squashed beef, then turns around and says that Terrell Owens wouldn't be in his Hall of Fame like anybody cares. I mean, if Skip Bayless had a Hall of Fame, it would consist of Tim Tebow, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, and Tom Brady. Actually, to be truly honest, I don't even think that Skip Bayless would even have a Hall of Fame. He most likely would have a Hall of Shame for all the players that he hates, like Patrick Mahomes, Terrell Owens, Odell Beckham Jr., LeBron James, the list goes on.
It's because you were really great at what you did. Didn't love the rest of it, which I'm about to get to, but here we go again, because just when I thought we had made peace with each other, this happened. A tweet from Terrell Owens concerning me and Odell. Terrell starts out, facts, all caps, with 3 exclamation points, and then 100 in red, as in, keep it 100. At Browns, at Baker Mayfield, are some suckers, says T.O. At real Skip Bayless, that's me.
No shit.
Always and forever, capitalized, creating capitalized, false narratives about certain players, all caps. He did it for years about me, and people believed it. So happy for at OBJ, tweeted T.O. Okay, so T.O. is saying that always and forever I've been creating false narratives about certain players, that I did it for years about him, and people believed it. T.O., I try to love you, man. I do. I try from the bottom of my heart. But I'm sorry. You and Odell created your own narratives. I simply commented on said narratives many times.
When will Skip Bayless admit it? His entire career is built around creating false narratives around players that he hates. And Skip Bayless has a tendency to argue based on his emotions. He's very subjective. Like when he blames Odell Beckham Jr. for Baker Mayfield's flaws. Odell leaves, goes to the Rams, wins the Super Bowl, could have won the Super Bowl MVP had he stayed healthy, and then he would have really made Skip Bayless look stupid. And all Skip Bayless can talk about when it comes to Baker Mayfield was his 11-game stretch in 2020.
I didn't make up the narrative. I just reacted to the narrative. So, just briefly, now that you've pushed my button, forgive me for this, but I gotta run back through my history with T.O. I was in the Bay Area. He was a 49er. I liked him. In fact, I loved him. I think I was the lone voice in the Bay Area who supported him.
You know, I find it funny that Skip Bayless always tries to pretend that he had someone's back from the beginning. He did the same thing with Kevin Durant. He said that he knew Kevin Durant before he became a big superstar. He basically was the only one talking about him while nobody even mentioned him. Now he is trying to do the same thing with Terrell Owens. And it's funny because we all know that when Skip Bayless likes an athlete, he basically likes them for life, no matter what they do, no matter if they're controversial or not.
Terrell Owens. I even had a big interview, a long interview. It was actually on the phone, but he called me back and we talked for an hour. I think he liked me, I don't know, but he was very willing to spill, and he did. And he spilled all over the 49ers, and I ran with it, and that's fine. I did what I did, and I stand by it, and I don't regret it, but I must admit, several of the 49er leaders, black and white, began to pull me aside and say, what are you doing? You have no idea what this guy is behind closed locker room doors. He's a nightmare.
You know, I am very curious. Those players that pulled you aside, were they third and fourth stringers? Could there have been a possibility that they were jealous of Terrell Owens? Because they were players that actually liked Terrell Owens, but you're not going to mention that.
Tearing our team apart. Really? Okay. So I opened my eyes, I opened my ears, I opened my heart. And I'll never forget the game back after 9/11 at Candlestick against the then arch rival St. Louis Rams, a dominating team, as you recall, in 2001. Rams won the game in large part because our man T.O. dropped 2 or 3 huge passes in that game. It so affected him that he sat in his locker almost comatose after the game while the media throng just stood waiting for him to speak. And as I recall, I don't think he ever spoke after that game. He just stared into his locker and wouldn't comment. Terrell led the league in drops 3 different times.
Well, basically, Skip Bayless is proving Terrell Owens' point about creating false narratives. He talks about how Terrell Owens has led the league in drops 3 different times. Obviously, he's not going to mention the fact that his first year with the Dallas Cowboys, he led the league in drop passes, but he also led the league in receiving touchdowns. Obviously, Skip Bayless has never played football in his life, because if he did, he would know that the more a receiver gets targeted, his drop rate is going to increase. Terrell Owens was so good that most of his quarterbacks target him a lot. Skip Bayless never adds context to anything he says, just so he can feel like he can win an argument. And as much as T.O. haters like to say that he went from team to team, I think a lot of people do not realize that Terrell Owens was with the 49ers for 8 years. That's a long time. Not only that, if Terrell Owens wasn't such a leader, like he had moments of him being a leader, like that time in 2003 where him and Jeff Garcia came back and beat the Giants in that wild card game. Terrell Owens basically hyped his team during halftime and in huddles. And with the Eagles, we all know that he played in a Super Bowl with the broken leg. But I realize Skip Bayless doesn't like confident men. He says that Sean McVay annoys him.
Sean McVay flat out annoys me. I believe he just annoys the hell out of his Rams players that he coaches. Sean just coaches the game. Yet it's clear to me that Sean wants to be the face of the franchise and the center of attention at every single moment. All I know is once they won that game, barely, Coach McVay was all over the field, photobombing interviews being done by his stars, his Hollywood stars. Popping up between them was Coach McVay. Hey, everybody, look at me. You want to ask me a question? Not really. We were talking to Aaron Donald, but we will. We'll go ahead and ask you, Coach. Trust me, that kind of egomania in your young head coach over time will not play well in your Los Angeles Rams locker room.
And this is the false narratives that Terrell Owens was talking about. Skip Bayless does not know what Sean McVay says behind closed doors. He does not know what he says to his players in the locker room. He only assumes, based on Sean McVay's energy on the field, that Sean McVay is an egomaniac coach.
You know, when you have such confidence in the players' ability to execute, Chris, Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp came to life. They showed why they're such great players. In the biggest moment, we had to have them. They just made play in and play out. Our offensive line protected really well. And then for Aaron Donald to be able to close it out, Joe, unbelievable.
And if you watch that full interview, you'll see that Sean McVay gives his players all the credit and not himself.